Massive Target store closings in September. Got a list of the closing stores. I think you'll find it interesting which states and cities these closings are happening in. Let's get into it. Here we go. So as the retail landscape continues to shift, another well-known brand's facing tough decisions. Target, a store that's been a go-to for everything from home goods to groceries, has announced the closure of several stores this fall. News has left many shoppers shocked, especially those who rely on Target for daily essentials. With retail crime and rising costs making it difficult to keep some stores open, Target has been forced to make this move. So what's really going on? Why are these stores closing? Let's dive into the details. So before we do that, let's run down to which stores are closing. We have got the East Palo Alto in California. We've got San Francisco. Oh, there's a shocker. We've got Oakland. We've got Pittsburgh, California. We've got Seattle, Portland. Interesting. So we have got California, Oregon, and Washington. Do you see a thread there? Do you see a theme there? Yeah. And then the cities themselves, these are big blue liberal cities. And Target has decided to, no can do. Now, I know there has been a ton of pushback on Target closing the stores specifically in Seattle, because folks that want to keep those stores open point to the fact that, hey, these stores don't have the most 911 calls. In fact, they might be middle of the road for criminal activity. But when you do a little bit deeper dive, I covered both the Seattle stores, the one on University Way and the one in Ballard. I physically went there and I gave you my opinion. My basic opinion is, yes, they may not have the most 911 calls, but they are smaller stores and they're going to make less money. And so if you have the decision to have to close any given store, from a corporate standpoint, it's all crime. We're closing because of crime, which is going to be true because there is a lot of crime. There's a lot of shoplifting that happens at the University of Washington, Seattle store closure. And then in Ballard, I did a walk around there and shot footage of the homeless encampments and just, it's one of those neighborhoods where you've got a lot of folks that are whacked out of their mind on drugs and they need to go somewhere to steal from in order to keep their drug habit going. So why is Target closing these stores? According to Target, the main reason for closure is organized retail theft. Okay? Yeah. You've got that on top of what I just described. And even with extra security guards and new theft prevention tools, the company says the crime levels in these locations are just too high. In a recent statement, Target explained that despite our efforts, we continue to face fundamental challenges to operating these stores safely and successfully. Now, safely means you don't want your customers to be accosted. You don't want your store employees to be accosted. You don't want your management. You don't want your vendors, everybody bringing all the stuff into the store. You don't want any of that to be impacted negatively with public safety issues. But in these areas, this is definitely a thing. Definitely a thing. But, I think there's that extra layer on there, which corporate isn't disclosing, which is, hey, and this comes down to the successfully part. The successfully part means they have to create this little tiny thing called profit. And if they're not creating a profit, then, they've got the option to close it down. It's their call. But what really impacts folks is a lot of times the elderly who need these stores because it's convenient and close to where they live. And now you may not have a drugstore where they're getting their prescriptions from. This might be one of the few stores that has food, fresh food oftentimes. But consistently, what we've seen is that it's the smaller Target stores, maybe the ones without the grocery stores, maybe the ones without pharmacies that they're closing down. And Target has made accommodations. I'm not trying to be a pro-Target guy. I'm not. I don't really shop at Target often. The only thing I really like about Target is their monster trail mix. It is to die for. If you can get your hands on it's a big container. I don't know how many calories that entire container has, but it's a lot. It's delicious. I think it's some of the best trail mix out there. That's my plug for Target. Everything else, could really care less. Don't really shop there. So how do local customers feel about it? People living near the stores aren't happy. Well, nobody is when their local store gets closed down. But you got to remember, the same folks that are having their stores closed, they have often voted into office politicians, and they have voted for things that have allowed the public safety to erode. Where you don't have enough police. Say you defunded the police in your community, and now you're sitting around going, they're closing our store because of, out of control retail theft. How did that happen? Well, it didn't just happen overnight. You've got consistent policy after consistent policy that's been enacted. And take Proposition 47 in California, right? I mean, that alone, where anything you shoplift under $950 is going to be a misdemeanor, and you're probably not going to get prosecuted for it because it's like, that's chump change. Well, the chump change adds up at the corporate level because, corporate has to take into consideration not only profit, but their shareholder value. And unless they create that profit, shareholder value tends to erode. That's just how this goes. So people want to say, you got to keep the stores open. No, you don't. And we're shutting these bad boys down, right? So take the East Palo Alto, California location, for example. It's a busy spot in the Ravenswood Shopping Center where many residents, especially the local Hispanic community, rely on Target for everything from groceries to pharmacy services. The store is set to close on September 28, 2024, a few days from now. And this has left many locals upset. Well, when you see your local stores closing, recognize that it's not because they are wildly successful within your community. And think about what that means in terms of what do we need to do within our community to make it a successful place that people can shop and stores can remain open. Because Target is cutthroat. They're just cutthroat. They have to be. They work on such small margins a lot of times on so much of this stuff. And if they see something that isn't working, boom, done. Like these 9 stores. What happens to the pharmacy? Well, they're gonna slough it off on nearby CVS locations. Okay, all right. How many stores are still open? Well, this is the good one. There's still 1,900 Target stores open. So that's why I find it really interesting that of the 1,900, the stores that they're closing are California, Washington, my home state, and Oregon. Interesting, right? Interesting. I think there's a few more closures. I think there were closures, and maybe those were probably closures that didn't happen in September or October. I think there was one in Harlem, New York. I think there might have been one in Texas, something along those lines, but the vast majority here that are closing September or October are they're happening in big blue liberal run cities that have had not just Target leave the building, but many, many, many other businesses. And this is just an indication of how things are going in those communities from the standpoint of this doesn't make any sense anymore. We're done here. And, millions of dollars have been spent at these stores getting them up and running. And I can't remember the Ballard store in Seattle, the 1448 Northwest Market Street. I think it had only been open for a handful of years. Hasn't been open that long. I think it was opened maybe shortly after the pandemic or something like that. Not very long. So what Target did their analysis, and they're like, that one's not making as much money, and it's in a crappy location where you've just got a bunch of lunatics running around. You've got organized retail theft going strong. So pretty easy for them to make that call of closed. We're done here. Now, you might say, well, but Target's opening up other stores. Yes, they are. That is interesting as well, right? Because they're going to other locations where they've already scoped out, and they're basically stating, all right, We're still going to have some retail theft and probably these other, because retail theft across the country. But what we're talking about right now is we're talking about stores that are most impacted by that. And on top of that, they aren't making the profits that maybe you get out of a big Target store where you can make more money. You can offset some of that hardship, their corporate hardship from, having a bunch of their stuff walk out their front door and the 5-finger discount. So this is what we got going on. We covered this a while ago, but this is when the rubber hits the road, because it takes that long for them to shut these stores down. It's not like a little mom and pop store where they just go, you know what? We've been robbed 14 times. We're done. And they flip that sign that goes from, open to forever closed, and they take their sign off. Like the Starbucks did in the Pike Place Market recently in Seattle. Yeah, interesting, right? Flagship Seattle Starbucks also closed due to safety issues. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks again for being here. We'll catch up in the next one. Bye for now.